Thomas Markle is sitting alone in Mexico watching his grandson's birthday unfold through an Instagram post like some random stranger scrolling social media at 2 a.m., while Meghan Markle turns the entire event into a polished global content operation. That is the real scandal here. Not the candles, not the edited photos, not even the bizarre timing of the press leaks. The scandal is that a grandfather has spent 7 years completely erased from the lives of children who share his blood, while the world is fed a carefully staged fantasy about authenticity, privacy, and protecting family. And the longer you stare at this story, the darker it starts to feel.
This is a strategic disaster. Harry, you can't preach about how you're giving your children space out of the public eye while your wife has just posted another picture of them, photoshopped to sell a candle named after them, while also revealing a full-on face shot of the child as a baby. So you can't preach when you're doing the exact thing you claim to be so bad.
Here's the deal. I am not mad at any photoshopping because, as we've seen already, Meghan is completely inauthentic. Her only authenticity is in her inauthenticity, if you will.
These pictures, which all appear to be artificially altered in some ways. This is just what we expect from you. This is just what...
Thomas Markle is now 80 years old. Think about that for a second. 80. The man who once paid for Meghan's education, who bragged about her to anyone who would listen, who thought he would proudly walk his daughter into the royal family, is now reduced to learning about Archie's life through scheduled Instagram uploads like everybody else. 7 birthdays, 7 entire years, no invitation, no reconciliation, no genuine attempt to bridge the gap, just silence. Cold, calculated silence. And meanwhile, the public is constantly told that Harry and Meghan are the compassionate ones, the humane ones, the emotionally evolved couple breaking generational trauma. But what exactly is compassionate about making a grandfather watch his own grandson grow up through filtered social media squares while strangers online know just as much about the child as he does? And then came Archie's 7th birthday. Suddenly, everything Thomas Markle had been warning people about for years exploded into plain sight all at once. The images dropped online with surgical precision. One photograph showed newborn Archie sleeping on Harry's chest, framed like a sacred intimate memory finally being gifted to the public. The second image showed the children standing in shallow water with their backs turned toward the camera, wrapped in cinematic lighting, mountains stretching behind them like a luxury brand campaign pretending to be a family memory. It looked warm, it looked personal, it looked authentic, until people started looking closer.
Let's start with Harry's hair, shall we? First of all, we all know that the reason why the royals can't go on Rogaine and other stuff is, they're worried about children and all that stuff, but they're past childbearing years. I don't understand. There's no shame in that game to go to Turkey and do what, everyone else has done and get some hair put in. If that's the look you're going for, just take a nice trip to Istanbul, come back with a full head of hair, and people will keep it moving. Instead, your wife wants to fluff it up a bit. It's kind of ridiculous. Meghan is completely inauthentic.
She is very clever. Her problem is she's not clever enough. She lacks self-awareness. She doesn't realize she's too clever. That is a terrible dilemma to be in, that not recognizing your own limitations.
That is when the internet noticed something strange. Harry's hair. Somehow, mysteriously, magically, Harry appeared to have a thicker hairline in the newborn photo than he had in documented appearances around the same time period. Social media users immediately started pulling archive photographs. Comparisons spread like wildfire. Side-by-side screenshots, zoom-ins, hairline analyses. Suddenly, thousands of people were asking the same uncomfortable question. Was this image digitally altered? And if so, why? Why manipulate an intimate newborn photograph at all? Why touch up something supposedly raw and deeply personal? That's when the entire authenticity narrative started collapsing under its own weight. Because remember what happened when Catherine, Princess of Wales, released a lightly edited Mother's Day photo? The media treated it like an international emergency. Endless headlines, demands for original files, conspiracy theories spiraling out of control, while Catherine herself was privately battling serious health issues the public didn't yet fully understand. She was dragged through absolute hell over one edited family image. But when Meghan's birthday photographs triggered similar questions, silence. Total silence. Suddenly, the same media outlets that demanded forensic investigations before were now publishing glowing stories about Meghan being a loving modern mother. No outrage, no interrogation, no pressure, just praise. And Thomas Markle saw all of it unfold exactly the way he always said it would. For years, he warned people that Meghan's public image was carefully managed down to microscopic detail. He said there was always a gap between what was presented publicly and what was actually happening privately. Most people laughed him off as bitter. But then Archie's birthday arrived and the pattern became impossible to ignore. The images were not just sentimental family photos. They were assets, strategic assets, because the birthday pictures were only half the operation. The truly jaw-dropping part happened behind the scenes. Meghan's lifestyle brand launched a Mother's Day candle collection at the exact same time the birthday images were released. And the candles? Named after the children's birthdays. Signature candle 506 for Archie's May 6 birthday. Signature candle 604 for Lilibet's June 4 birthday. $64 each. The marketing emails blasted out to subscribers while millions of people engaged with Archie's birthday post online. One of the very first accounts interacting publicly with the birthday upload was the commercial brand account itself. That's not coincidence. That's coordination. That's strategy. That's turning a child's birthday into a monetized traffic event while simultaneously preaching to the world about protecting children from exploitation. And suddenly, Harry's public speeches started sounding very different, because this is the same man who built an entire global identity around warning parents about the dangers of social media. The same Harry who gave interviews about children being turned into commodities online. The same Harry who claimed he left royal life because he didn't want his children consumed by public machinery the way he was growing up. Yet here we are. Birthday photographs released strategically. Product launches synchronized around children's birth dates. Emotional family imagery driving commercial engagement. It looked less like escaping the machine and more like building a brand new machine entirely under their own control. And here is the part nobody inside the Sussex media machine seems prepared for. Children grow up. That is the ticking clock hanging over this entire operation. Archie will not stay 7 forever. Lilibet will not remain a mysterious silhouette in curated photographs forever. One day, these children will become teenagers with internet access, search bars, opinions, memories, questions, and eventually anger. And when that day comes, the archive waiting for them is enormous. Every interview, every carefully timed press leak, every birthday post, every monetized campaign wrapped around their existence, every contradictory statement about privacy and public exposure sitting there permanently documented for them to discover. That is why Thomas Markle's warnings suddenly hit differently now. For years, people dismissed him as emotional noise surrounding the royal circus. But what if the old man sitting in Mexico was actually seeing the machinery more clearly than everybody else? Because he kept repeating the same thing over and over again. Relationships inside Meghan's orbit seemed to exist only as long as they served the larger narrative. Once people stopped fitting the strategy, they disappeared. Friends vanished. Family vanished. Former allies vanished. And now, many royal watchers are quietly asking a terrifying question: what happens when Harry himself no longer fits the strategy? That question gets harder to avoid when you look at the bigger picture surrounding this birthday controversy. Because this wasn't just about candles and edited photographs. This happened during a moment when Harry and Meghan's overall public image appears increasingly unstable. The Netflix excitement cooled down. The massive Hollywood influence they were expected to command never fully materialized. Production deals stalled. Celebrity friendships reportedly became quieter and less visible. The American public fascination that once felt explosive started fading into exhaustion. And suddenly, during a week when King Charles received glowing international coverage, the Sussex operation became hyperactive again. The timing feels almost desperate. A flattering Celebrity magazine article appears painting Harry as the emotionally evolved father who succeeded where Charles supposedly failed. Celebrity endorsements of Meghan's products start appearing online right when negative stories about her social circle begin spreading. Birthday imagery floods social media wrapped in emotional language about love, motherhood, healing, and authenticity. The whole thing starts feeling less like spontaneous family celebration and more like a coordinated counterattack against slipping public momentum. And that is exactly what makes the the children's involvement so uncomfortable. Because Archie did not choose any of this. Neither did Lilibet. They did not choose to become symbols inside an endless global branding war between royalty, celebrity culture, victimhood narratives, and commercial influence. Yet somehow their birthdays are now tied to product launches. Their images are strategically revealed in fragments. Their identities are protected only when protection benefits the narrative. That contradiction sits at the center of everything. Harry once spoke emotionally about how growing up in the royal family made him feel like a commodity. He described cameras hunting him. He described feeling emotionally trapped inside a public system that treated personal pain like entertainment. Millions sympathized with him because those wounds felt real. But now, critics are asking a brutal question. If Harry hated growing up as a carefully managed public product, why does so much of his current life resemble a softer California version of the exact same system? The palace used royal symbolism. Hollywood uses branding and emotional relatability. Different packaging, same machinery. And the weirdest part is how often the Sussexes seem to accidentally expose the contradiction themselves. They claim they want privacy, but strategically release carefully curated glimpses of the children during key publicity cycles. They condemn toxic media culture while continuously feeding exclusive material to celebrity outlets. They criticize institutional image management while aggressively controlling their own narrative through hand-picked interviews, orchestrated leaks, polished documentaries, and emotionally loaded public statements. The line between escaping the royal machine and building a rival machine has become almost invisible. That is where Thomas Markle's perspective suddenly becomes impossible to fully dismiss anymore. Because unlike journalists, commentators, or random internet critics, Thomas watched Meghan long before global fame entered the equation. He watched how stories were shaped. He watched relationships evolve. He watched public image become increasingly central. And according to him, the current operation is not new at all. It is simply larger, more sophisticated, and backed by global influence. The same instincts, just amplified. That possibility is why Tom Bower's comments keep resurfacing in conversations around the Sussexes. Bower warned that Meghan allegedly operates with a relentless instinct toward winning public battles no matter who gets damaged along the way. Former friends disappear. Relatives disappear. Allies fade. The casualties accumulate while the narrative moves forward untouched. And now people are wondering whether Harry himself realizes how isolated he has become. Because isolation is easier to control. Isolation makes dependency stronger. Isolation turns a couple into an entire universe where outside perspectives become enemies by default. Meanwhile, the children remain at the center of the optics. Archie's birthday becomes international discourse instead of private joy. Lilibet's existence remains hidden and revealed in carefully measured doses like part of a luxury marketing strategy. Even the mystery surrounding the children fuels engagement online. Every partial glimpse becomes a viral event. Every release generates headlines, reactions, debates, theories, and emotional investment. In entertainment culture, mystery itself is profitable. And maybe that is the saddest part of all. Because this story no longer feels like a normal family feud. It feels industrial. It feels strategic. It feels managed minute by minute. Every criticism countered with emotional imagery. Every negative headline buried under carefully timed positivity. Every challenge answered with another narrative push. The system reacts instantly because the system never sleeps. But there is one thing no media strategy can stop forever. Time. Time is coming for everybody in this story. Time for King Charles, who reportedly still wants peace while dealing with serious health struggles. Time for Thomas Markle, an aging man whose chances of ever meeting his grandchildren shrink with every passing year. Time for Harry, who may one day wake up and fully measure the cost of the life he left behind. And most importantly, time for Archie and Lilibet themselves, because eventually those children will ask questions no publicist can fully answer. Why were our birthdays linked to products? Why were our images released strategically? Why did both grandfathers spend years cut off from us? Why did so much family pain become global entertainment? Why were private moments turned into brand opportunities while the world was told we needed privacy? Those questions are coming. Slowly. Inevitably, like thunder moving closer. And when that moment arrives, the record will already exist waiting for them. Time-stamped, archived, permanent. The altered photographs, the birthday candles, the media briefings, the emotional interviews, the contradictions, the silence between grandparents and grandchildren stretched across oceans for nearly a decade. Everything documented forever.